Thanks very much. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. Nice to be here. We're going to take a slightly different approach, I think, probably because I haven't had as much time to prepare as the rest of these people. But instead of addressing kind of head-on this idea about belief in religion, I'm going to talk about it in a slightly off-kilter way. It would be ridiculous to argue against belief, right? I think that it would be absurd to try and argue against belief. I myself believe a lot of stuff. I'm not in the habit of arguing against myself, except by way of preparation. So I believe there's a room outside that door. I believe my wife loves me. I believe that apples are delicious. So I believe a lot of things. So before I believe something, there's some certain conditions about what it constitutes to believe in a claim. So what I'd like to do now is go through some of the questions that I would ask if somebody wants me to believe something. And I think it's also fair to say that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And there is no more extraordinary claim than the claim that God exists. It's the big one. So first of all, first thing I'd ask is if somebody wants me to believe something, cui bono? Which is Journalism 101. Anybody have a bit of Latin? Not the panel. Right? Who benefits? Who benefits from me believing in this thing? Is there an explicit or implicit benefit to somebody in me believing this thing? In the case of religious belief, two very clear examples. The Vatican, German, and Australian Catholic churches have a combined wealth of $60 billion. Belief is big business. So that is an ulterior motive for me to believe in this thing. It might be a bit gauche to call it all a big Ponzi scheme, but I don't know that I'm above that. Secondly, to claim that there is a superhuman entity outside of the universe that is absolutely infallible, that only you have a direct line to, is an extraordinary claim. It makes you amazingly powerful and influential. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when somebody makes me want to, or asks me to believe something, I always think, who's going to benefit from this? And those are two things that make me uneasy about religious belief. Another question I might ask is, how's this belief being put to me? So is it being put to me based on the arguments, or is there some sort of coercion? You are literally threatened with an eternity of hell for not believing this. That's a very high consequence. I find that often the best ideas don't require that level of coercion and threat. We'll move on a little bit around extraordinary claims. So this I always have a problem with. God is infinitely mysterious and almost completely unknowable, and yet we know with phenomenal specificity his views on sex. That seems bizarre to me. He's simultaneously outrageously mysterious, but we know exactly what he thinks we should all be doing behind closed doors. What evidence can we muster to put this together? We have miracles. Everybody's got miracles. How are we supposed to separate truth claims when every different religion makes claims to miracles? Religious books coming out of your ears. So lots of different religions have lots of different beliefs. They can't all be true. There's no legitimate epistemological way to separate them other than to say, well, I've got a gun. I think my side is going to win. There's no way to separate and distinguish these claims, which again makes me think this idea of belief suspect. So, look, somebody asked me to believe something. Next question I'll probably ask is it internally consistent? Does it make sense just in and of itself? Some quotes. With God, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. A few books later, the Lord was with Judah, and he drave out the inhabitants of the mountain. But he could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley because they had chariots of iron. What an extraordinary passage that is. So on the one hand, we have a God who is totally omnipotent, and yet chariots of iron can't drive them or even drave them out of the valley. So these beliefs that we're being presented with are themselves internally inconsistent. And you can go two ways with this, right? You can either say, look, the Bible is literally true, and that's your belief, in which case you have to reconcile all these strange little idiosyncrasies and contradictions. Or you can say, my belief is the Bible is not actually literally true, it's just a good book. And on that basis, we probably have a useful conversation. Does believing in this thing that I'm being asked to believe, is it dangerous? Is it a dangerous thing to believe? We've already had quite a few arguments about the dangers of belief. I won't hammer that point home too far, but certainly the victims of religious belief are in their millions. The figure estimated for the AIDS epidemic, due in large part, but of course not exclusively, to the immoral purpose of condoms, 75 million. And this is the thing that drives me nuts about dogmatic beliefs. No right-minded atheist, and we've got some pretty full-on atheists here this evening, no right-minded atheist would believe that Christians deliberately wanted to kill 75 million African people with AIDS. That would be an absurd belief. No matter how nuts you are as an atheist, nobody would believe that that was the intention. But this is the problem with dogmatic beliefs. They paint you into corners where you have to come up with increasingly ridiculous responses to justify the positions you already held. It's extraordinarily hard to get yourself out of these corners once you've painted yourself in. If you say condoms are immoral, it doesn't matter how many bodies stack up. You can't reverse that position. The Pope tried in 2010. The Vatican issued a missive very quickly afterwards, said, and listen, that wasn't official dogma. That was just, he wasn't saying condoms are okay. He might be mistaken. He hasn't had his nap when he made that claim. And that's what's so frustrating. It's right-minded people who desperately want to help with horrible consequences because they're dogmatically fixed to these beliefs. The believer, right, so let's say belief isn't about truth claims, belief is about other stuff. Makes you happier, makes you live longer, gives you a sense of community. I think it's really intellectually bankrupt to believe something because it makes you happy. Surely we want to work towards something because it's true. Also, living life longer. I don't know how many of you have had first-hand interactions with adult diapers in your later years, but living longer is not something I'm actually looking forward to. In very quick conclusion, because I know I'm running out of time, to be a non-believer is to know that it falls to us to make the world a better place. There is no supernatural father figure who's going to rescue it or guarantee the punishment of the wicked. To the believers, I would conclude simply by asking that you apply all of the skepticism, the criticism, the clear thinking that leads you to believe that Zeus and Odin and all of these other mythological creatures are not real. All I'm asking is that you go one step further, because we need you. We need your intelligence, we need your passion. We don't need you making these arguments. Thank you very much.